The last promise. Every evening, Daniel sat on the same wooden bench outside the old railway station. People often wondered why. Some thought he was waiting for a train. Others believed he was waiting for someone. But Daniel never told anyone the truth. He was waiting for a promise. 25 years earlier, Daniel had been a poor 17-year-old boy living with his mother in a small village. They had very little money, but they had each other. His father had died when Daniel was only 10. His mother, Maria, worked from morning until late at night cleaning houses and washing clothes for wealthy families. Her hands were always rough, her back always tired, but whenever Daniel came home, she smiled. "Did you eat, my son?" she would ask. "Yes, Mum," Daniel would lie. Even when he hadn't eaten all day, Maria always knew. She would quietly divide her small portion of food into two and push half toward him. "You need it more than I do." Daniel hated seeing his mother sacrifice everything for him. One rainy evening, when Daniel was 17, he found his mother sitting alone near the window, holding an old photograph of his father. "Mum," he said softly, "why are you crying?" Maria quickly wiped her eyes. "I'm not crying." Daniel sat beside her. "You don't have to hide it from me." For a moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled sadly. "Your father always wanted you to become someone important. Someone who could live a better life than we did." Daniel held her hand. "I will, Mum, I promise." Maria looked into his eyes. "Then promise me one more thing." "What?" "No matter how successful you become, never forget where you came from, and never forget me." Daniel hugged her tightly. "I could never forget you." The next morning, Daniel left the village to find work in the city. Before he boarded the train, Maria gave him a small silver watch. "It belonged to your father," she said. Daniel looked at it. "Keep it with you. Whenever you miss home, look at the time and remember that somewhere, your mother is waiting for you." Daniel smiled. "I'll come back soon." Maria nodded. "I'll wait." The train began to move. Daniel looked through the window. His mother stood on the platform, waving with one hand and wiping tears with the other. That was the last time Daniel saw her. At first, Daniel called every day. He found a job at a small restaurant and worked 14 hours a day. He slept in a tiny room with 3 other workers. Life was difficult, but he didn't complain. Every month, he sent money home. And every Sunday, he called his mother. "Mum, I'll come home soon." "I know," she always replied. Years passed. Daniel worked harder. He learned new skills, started a small business, and slowly became successful. His little business became a company. His company became bigger. He bought a beautiful house. He owned expensive cars. People who once ignored him now wanted to shake his hand. But there was one thing Daniel could never buy. Time. One Sunday morning, Daniel finally decided it was time to go home. He picked up the silver watch his mother had given him. It had stopped working years ago, but Daniel still kept it carefully. He booked a ticket and traveled back to his village. When he arrived, he immediately noticed something strange. The house was empty. The windows were broken. The garden was covered with weeds. Daniel's heart began beating faster. He ran to a neighbor. "Where is my mother?" The old man looked at him silently. Then he lowered his eyes. "Daniel, what happened?" The old man sighed. "Your mother waited for you for many years." Daniel's face became pale. "Where is she?" "She passed away 3 years ago." Daniel couldn't breathe. "What? She was sick for a long time." "She never wanted to tell you because she didn't want to disturb your life." Daniel stepped backward. "No," the old man continued. "Every evening, she went to the railway station and sat on the same bench." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "She believed you would come back one day." Daniel ran toward the station. The same old wooden bench was still there. He sat down. For the first time in years, the successful businessman became the little boy who had once needed his mother's hand. He cried like a child. "I'm sorry, Mum. I came back, but you weren't here." The station was almost empty. A cold wind passed through the trees. Then an old station worker approached him. "You are Maria's son, aren't you?" Daniel looked up. "Yes." The old man smiled sadly. "Your mother asked me to give you something if you ever came back." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Daniel's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a letter, his mother's handwriting. "My dear Daniel, if you are reading this, then you finally came home. I always knew you would. Please don't blame yourself. I was never angry that you stayed away. I was proud of you. Every time someone told me that my son had become successful, my heart became bigger than the sky. I wanted to see you one last time, but I knew life doesn't always give us what we want, so I waited. I waited at the station because that was where I watched you leave, and somehow, sitting there made me feel that you were still close to me. Daniel, you once promised that you would never forget me. You kept the promise. I know because I always carried you in my heart. Don't spend the rest of your life crying for the years we lost. Instead, use your life to make someone else's life better. Help people who have nothing. Feed those who are hungry. Give hope to those who have forgotten how to dream. That will be the greatest gift you can give me. And whenever you miss me, look at the sky. I will be somewhere beneath the same sky, smiling at you. Love, Mum. Daniel couldn't finish reading. He pressed the letter against his chest and cried. That night, he stayed at the railway station until sunrise. The next morning, he made a decision. He sold one of his luxury cars, then another. He returned to the city and created a foundation in his mother's name. He built a small school in his village. He opened a free clinic. He started a food program for poor families. And every year, on the day his mother died, Daniel returned to the railway station. He would sit on the old wooden bench and hold the broken silver watch. People eventually began to recognize him. One evening, a little boy approached him. Sir, why do you always sit here? Daniel smiled. I'm waiting for someone. Who? My mother. The boy looked confused. But where is she? Daniel looked toward the sky. She isn't here anymore. Then why do you wait? Daniel smiled through his tears. Because some people leave this world, but they never leave our hearts. The boy sat beside him. Daniel looked at the child and remembered himself many years ago. He took the silver watch from his pocket and held it carefully. It still didn't work, but Daniel never repaired it. Because to him, that broken watch was more valuable than every expensive watch he could ever buy. It reminded him of the most important lesson of his life. Success can buy a house, but it cannot buy a home. Money can buy food, but it cannot buy a mother's love. And time can move forward, but it can never bring back the moments we failed to appreciate. Daniel closed his eyes. A gentle wind touched his face. For a moment, he could almost hear his mother's voice. Did you eat, my son? Daniel smiled. Yes, Mum. Then he whispered, and this time, I remembered you. The sun slowly disappeared behind the horizon. Daniel remained on the bench until the station lights came on. He wasn't waiting for a train anymore. He was simply keeping the last promise he had made to his mother. And sometimes, that is what love really means, keeping a promise even when the person you made it to is no longer there to hear it.